would say probably total comp 240.
I make 146.
I make like 300K, yeah.
These numbers sound impressive, don't they? But what is the reality behind these high salaries? Are these software engineers telling you the whole truth? I have been a software engineer at Google and Amazon for over 5 years now. During this time, I have had countless conversations about salaries with my colleagues and friends in the tech industry, and I have noticed some interesting patterns in the way people think and talk about their compensation. On the flip side, I also have friends who don't work at any of these big tech companies. They often argue that these high salaries are only paid in high cost of living areas. So these numbers don't really mean much in the grand scheme of things. Before we can dive into the truth behind the tech salaries, we need to understand how they actually work. Because trust me, it's very different from how salaries work in traditional jobs. A typical tech salary has 5 main components: base salary, initial stock grant, annual bonus, sign-on bonus, and stock refreshers. To really understand how the tech salaries work, it's easier to look at how your salary changes over the first 4 years of your job. You will understand why that is in just a moment. Base salary is pretty straightforward. It's the fixed amount you receive in your paycheck every 2 weeks or a month. Let's say you are offered a base salary of $150,000 per year. Great. That's $150,000 for each of the 4 years we are looking at. That's the part of your compensation that is most stable and predictable. It's what you can count on to pay your bills and plan your budget. Now here's where things get interesting. Most tech companies offer what's called an initial stock grant. This is the chunk of company stock that they promise you when you join, but you do not get it all at once. Instead, it becomes available to you over time. Typically over 4 years. This is also called vesting of the stock. Let's say your initial grant is worth $400,000. You might get 25% of it each year for 4 years. So that's additional $100,000 per year on top of your base salary. But remember, this is stock, not cash, and its value can go up or down based on the company's performance. This is where potential for both significant gains and losses comes in. If the company does well and stock price doubles, suddenly that $100,000 per year becomes $200,000. If the company struggles and stock is half now, you are looking at $50,000 instead. Next up is the annual bonus. This is usually a percentage of your base salary. Let's say 15%. It's typically paid out once a year based on your performance and company's performance. If you hit your targets, that's an extra $22,500 per year in the average case. But keep in mind that this can vary. You might get more in a great year or less if the things don't go well. In most cases, if you're at least meeting the expectations, you can expect the target percentage of 15%. Now many companies also offer a sign-on bonus. This is a one-time payment to sweeten the deal and get you to join. Let's assume that it's $50,000. In most cases, you will get it only in your first year. Sign-on bonuses can vary widely, from a few $1,000s to over $100,000 in some cases. They're often used to compensate for any unvested stock or bonuses you might be leaving behind in your current job. Lastly, we have stock refreshers. These are additional stock grants given each year to keep you motivated and retain you. Typically, refreshers also vest over 4 years, just like your initial grant. Let's say your target refresher is around $100,000 per year. In your first year, you won't see any of this because they are granted at the end of the year. In the second year, you will start seeing 25% of your first refresher. In your third year, you will get 25% of your first and second year refreshers, and so on. The concept of refreshers is important to understand because that's how tech companies try to avoid the cliff effect. Without refreshers, your total compensation would drop significantly after 4 years. Refreshers help to keep the compensation more stable over time. Putting this all together, this is what your salary looks like for 4 years. Now that you understand all these different components, let's look at how some software engineers might artificially inflate their salaries in their minds and sometimes even in their conversations. Before we talk about that, I want to make it very clear that I am not commenting on any of the people I showed you in the beginning of the video. I do not personally know them or know their specific situation. I'm just sharing some ways the salaries get misreported in the tech industry. Now that we have that out of the way, let's continue with the video. The first way I've seen salaries getting inflated is by counting the eggs before they hatch. Some people will take the entire initial stock grant that is going to vest in 4 years and count it as their current salary. This does not happen much in the US, but I've seen it happen a lot in other countries like India. It's not even the individual's fault. Most of the time it's media hyping up these numbers, but it is misleading. If you have a $400,000 stock grant vesting over 4 years, you should not claim that you are making extra $400,000 a year. Another common trick is counting the sign-on bonus as part of the regular salary. If you remember, sign-on bonus is typically a one-time payment. You might get extra $50,000 when you join, but that does not mean that your salary is $50,000 higher every year. Some companies do give significant stock refreshers that can make up for the sign-on bonus in the subsequent years. But if your company does not do that, counting your sign-on bonus as your regular salary is artificial inflation. The third way people inflate their salary is by using the highest stock price they have seen. When our company is doing well, we tend to check our compensation quite regularly. But when the stock takes a dive, we are less eager to do that math. It's human nature to remember and quote the highest number we have seen. If you ask me how much I make right now, I might instinctively give you the highest number unless I sit down and do the actual calculation with the latest stock price. These methods of salary inflation are relatively easy to correct if you are being honest with yourself. It's not that hard to calculate the exact number if you want to. But there are some other factors that are a bit trickier to account for. Many people argue that these salaries are paid in high cost of living areas, and taxes are also very high in states like California. There is some truth to this argument, but it's not the whole story. Yes, taxes are higher in California compared to a state like Texas. But you should know that these salaries are also offered in states like Washington, which have no state tax. So the tax argument does not always hold true. As for the high cost of living argument, it's partly true, but it's often overblown. This argument really only applies to your cost of living, not to your entire salary. For people in high-paying jobs, your cost of living is usually much lower than your total compensation. So when someone says that $300,000 in California is same as $120,000 somewhere else, they're not telling you the whole truth, because there is a good chance that person making $300,000 is not spending all of it. The key is to think in terms of saving potential, not just spending. Even after accounting for higher cost of living, your potential savings are usually much higher with an increased salary. Assuming you keep your expenses in check, let's break it down with some numbers quickly. Say you are making $300,000 in San Francisco and your friend is making $120,000 in Austin, Texas. Yes, your rent might be $4,000 instead of $2,000. Your groceries might also cost $1,000 instead of $600. But even with this higher cost, you're still likely to have a lot more left over at the end of the month for savings and investments. Another factor that is often overlooked is career growth. High-paying tech hubs like Silicon Valley or Seattle don't just pay higher salaries. They often provide more opportunities for fast career growth. This can lead to even higher earnings in the long run. Now, I'm not saying that everyone in tech is lying about their salary. Far from it. Many software engineers are making incredible amounts of money, especially at top tech companies. But it's important to understand the nuances of tech compensation and to look beyond the headline number. Use this number to educate yourself, not to compare. That's all from me today. My name is Sahil, and I'll see you in the next one.